What I would say with the mental models is the following. I sometimes have to pinch myself, but I've had a chance to have dinner with Charlie many times in his home, and I've played bridge with him for many hours. And I think what I learned the most from all of that was just observing him, not so much what he was saying, but just watching how he functions. I think watching him gave me more insights than anything what he was actually saying. And what I realize about Charlie is that he has a very large brain. He's got very high horsepower. And what he's also doing with that very large brain is he is pounding a massive amount of information into that brain. So I think Charlie must read 400 or 500 books a year. And when he's sitting in his kind of easy chair at home, there's a pile of books on one side, there's another pile of books on the other side. And it's like an assembly line. These books are just pounding through, probably more than one or two a day. But neither the large brain nor that huge amount of data going into his brain is responsible for his success, in my opinion. What I believe is truly responsible for his success is the mental model hacks. So what Charlie has been able to do over the last 50, 70, 80 years is that he's been able to figure out certain mental models. And when he figures out certain mental models, he gets those etched in his brain. And when you start putting something like 30, 40, 50 mental models in your brain, and when you encounter some company or business that you're looking at, and instantly 3 or 4 mental models come and work on that particular business, you are able to get to a perspective on that company relatively quickly and probably relatively very accurately that most of the humans are going to have a hard time with. So the key to actually getting great at some of these things is to get a lot of fluency. First of all, you have to get the mental models into your system. The second is you have to believe in those models. And the third is you've got to be able to very quickly overlay 3, 4, 5 of these models that apply in a particular situation. And especially when what Charlie says is that when multiple mental models are working in the same direction, that's when you get Lollapalooza effects. So, for example, if you look on YouTube, there's a talk I gave many years ago on Coca-Cola. And I went through a bunch of the mental models that Warren and Charlie used when they were figuring Coke out. And there's a whole bunch of different ones that go in. And once they saw that there were like 4 or 5 models working in the same direction, they knew they had a winner because of the way that would work. There are many different mental models. Cloning is a mental model. The reciprocity of humans is a mental model. There's many mental models. So if you go to Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is my favorite book, there's the last chapter in the book is the psychology of human misjudgment, which is a talk Charlie gave a long time ago at Harvard. And I think it probably took him something like 40 or 50 years to prepare for that talk. I don't think he could have given that talk 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because he didn't have the model. So that talk lays out something like 30 models, 20 or 30 models that I try to reread that talk every year. And every year when I reread it, I think I pick up new stuff. And I'm not that good at being able to overlay these models and recall them that quickly like he does. He's got a fluency of recall and a fluency of understanding which ones apply. So when you look at a situation and you just look at a lot of data you have in your head against that situation, that's a very blunt tool. But if you look at a situation and you're able to recall 4 mental models, like one of the mental models for Coke is something we in humans have known as association tendency. So Coke likes to advertise wherever people are happy. So they are at the Olympic Games and they try to be at the Super Bowl and they want to be with you at movie theaters and all of this, right? Because they feel that if you're in a happy place and you consume Coke, then it's kind of Pavlov's dog conditioning. You're going to actually think that it's a Coke that made you happy, right? And so the association tendency is something that advertisers understand really well. And it's one mental model that Coke uses. And if you start overlaying these other mental models with that, then you start getting these kind of unusual effects. That's the same reason why Coke uses celebrities, right? So if we have some George Clooney type character drinking Coke, we're going to think, oh, we'll be like Clooney too if we drink the Coke. And so the association tendency kicks in there as well. So I think that building an arsenal of mental models, and one doesn't even need to be that, I don't think I'm that good at it. I've just got a few models that I think a lot of humans ignore, that I don't think one should ignore, that can give you a good edge. I think cloning has given me a huge edge in getting a head start in life. I think that I understood how Warren and Charlie went on these treasure hunts, and it fits in my psyche to go on treasure hunts. So for some people, it may not fit with their psyche, but for some people, it will. And so the combination of a treasure hunt with being able to take something that shows up and then overlay a bunch of other models on it. So for example, this company in Reysas in Turkey was really cheap. But the thing that was more interesting to me about that company was not that it was a 3-cent dollar bill. What was more interesting to me about it was that they're not interested in investing capital if the rate of return is below 25 to 35%. So it's the reinvestment rate that's more interesting. So the 3-cent dollar bill, I'll get a 30x. But if the dollar bill becomes a $20 bill, that's far more interesting. And now 3 cents can become $20. And that's much more interesting than 3 cents becoming $1. So the mental model of compounding is well understood by many of us. So when you overlay cheapness with goodness, which is what you get with high return on equity businesses, they're good businesses generating high returns, we know that high returns over a long period with long runways get you remarkable results. But when you overlay that with something that's really cheap, you're going to get what Munger would call Lollapalooza effects. Because if I bought the same thing at 100 cents on the dollar and it compounds, I still do well. But if I buy it at 5 cents or 3 cents and then it compounds, that's just off the charts. And so I would say focus on the hacks, focus on the mental models and build. And Munger can give you a big head start because it takes a while to build these and learn these and internalize these. I think the value investing community, going back to Ben Graham, has a ethos of knowledge sharing and teaching. And it goes back to Graham. Graham did a great job of that very selflessly. And then Buffett and Munger did a great job with that very selflessly. So I think it's just part of the community. I think there are a lot of practitioners in the community who follow that ethos and not going to become any poorer by sharing any of these things. And actually, I have no original ideas. Whatever I'm sharing from you is coming from other masters. And so it's not I figured something out. I haven't figured anything out. I'm just a shameless cloner. So it's just, I would say that I have been deeply enriched by the teachers that came before me who were such great teachers. And to the extent that I can be helpful, I'm more than happy to be helpful. One thing interesting, Buffett says that what he wants on his gravestone, he says just he was a teacher. I think that's what he wants to be most remembered as, that he was a teacher.